Hi everyone, it's Lisa from My Dreaming Soap. Welcome to my channel and thanks for dropping by. Now this soap is a 100% natural soap. It's got no micas or even titanium dioxide in it, and it's fragranced with essential oils. Now, I am by no means an expert in natural soap making, and in fact before I started delving into natural soap making a couple of months ago, I really hadn't done very much of it at all. However, if you know me, you won't be surprised to know that I've done an extensive amount of testing since, and now I'm pretty happy that I can get a lovely variety of colours through various ways of infusing or mixing or adding to my lye. And as I said, I've just done lots and lots of testing to see what works best in my recipe. Now, when I started my natural soap making journey, I purchased a book by Jo Hausler all about colouring your soaps with botanicals. And in that book, she gives you lots of lovely advice about how to do your infusions, what type of botanicals to use, what rates to use, how to add them to your recipes, how to cure your soap so you have minimal colour loss, and a whole host of information. I learned an awful lot from that book, and I've done an awful lot of testing based on it, and I'm really happy now that I've got a good strong base on colourants that I can use in my soaps. I'll leave a link to the book in the description below so that you can get a copy yourself if you're interested in learning more about colouring your soap with natural plant infusions. Come on, let's go make some soap. I did test quite a range of botanicals, but for this soap I want an orange and yellow colour palette to go with an orange essential oil that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be using some paprika powder to give me my orange and some annatto seeds to give me my yellow. I'm going to do an oil infusion for both of these. And for both of these two botanicals, that's the only way that I actually tried it out, because I was really happy with the results that I've got. Now I'm just using a combination of various jars that I've got around. I've got some mason jars, some old pickle jars, that type of thing. It really doesn't matter what you use, as long as you make sure that they're nice and clean and ideally sterilised. I made both of these infusions at a rate of 1 part botanical to 15 parts oil. And all I did was just pop the botanical into the jar and then added in the olive oil, gave it a good old stir around and then sealed the jars up. I then did exactly the same for the annatto seeds. Now with my infusions, I wanted some to test pretty quickly. So for 1 jar of paprika and 1 jar of annatto, I did a hot infusion. And that meant I just took my sealed up jar and I put it into, I don't have a slow cooker or anything, but I do have a sous vide machine. So I put it into my sous vide machine on a gentle heat for about 4 hours. And the ones for a cold infusion, I just sealed those up and I've just put them in a dark cupboard. And then for the first week or so I shook them vigorously every day, and ever since that I've been going in and shaking them every now and again. Now once my infusions were ready, I started testing, and I replaced part of the oils in my recipe with the infused oils until I was happy with the colours. Now for my paprika, I like this nice dark orange, and that's where I've replaced pretty well all my olive oil, 38%. But the annatto, to make sure I got a yellow without it going into the orange, I needed to stay around 15%. And these are blocks of colour that have cured for 6 weeks. And the little white bit of soap there is just my natural soap base with nothing added. I'm going to be using an orange essential oil for my soap. Now citrus essential oils can be notorious for fading, so I'm using a tenfold essential oil. Now a folded essential oil is one that's been distilled a number of times, so in this case 10 times. and during the distillation process the terpenes are removed. Now these are the volatile part of the oil, so by removing these it actually enhances the shelf life of the essential oil and also reduces the potential of the essential oil to damage your skin. So whilst a 10 times essential oil is much stronger in terms of fragrance, you can use it in your cold process soap at the same rate as the unfolded version because of the removal of these substances. So to make my soaps, I want to have 3 even amounts of my 3 colours. So I've mixed up my oils, excluding the olive oil that I use in my recipe, and I've just melted these down and I'm just going to divide them out evenly. And then for the white colour, so that's just my plain soap batter, I'm going to add in the missing amount of olive oil. For our annatto, I only want to use it at a rate of 15% of oil. So therefore I still need to add some olive oil and the annatto as well to make up that oil that I haven't yet mixed in. And then finally for my paprika, I'm going to do a full replacement for my olive oil so I can just top that up with the infusion I need. So once we've got all of our oils prepared and made up our lye solution, just check that they're at the temperature that we want, which for me is between 80 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit typically. And then you want to make sure you accurately split your lye solution amongst your 3 jugs. And then we can carry on very much as normal. So just a quick stir to mix that lye in, and then I'm going to blend just to an emulsion. The pour technique I'm going to do is another one of those that requires you to keep a nice thin batter for an extended pour. Now I remember when I was doing all my research that Joe said about trying to use an essential oil that isn't strongly coloured so that it doesn't affect the colours that you've made with your botanicals. Now I must admit this was playing on my mind a bit as I dumped this extremely dark coloured essential oil into my soap batter. Now I have used this essential oil before and I'm sure it doesn't actually bring that colour through to the final soap, but I must admit I was a little bit worried that after all my care with my different levels of infusion and everything that I'd now just made them all a very similar colour orange. So just a good final stir to get that essential oil mixed in, and then we're ready for our pour. I must admit, I have really enjoyed working with these infusions. It's nice not to have to sometimes just deal with micas and the sort of mess and that they make. You know, this really is a lovely soaping experience. Now I actually made this soap twice because I wanted to do 2 slightly different designs, and both of them are going to be based on the to comb or not to comb technique. So the first one is literally straightforward, going through and doing that as a standard technique. So you're going to need some dividers for your mould, and you can either do all the pouring all from one end, or you can alternate it like I'm going to do. And we're just literally going to pour bits from each jug into each section of the mould.
There's some stains on your photo, little cracks on your rusty frame, stuck in the mud, but it's okay. I don't have the pieces of your home buried in the flashbacks. All these wicked nightmares has gone cold.
Now for my first soap, I just completed the pour as a normal to comb or not to comb pour, took out the dividers and then left the soap like that. And then this was my second loaf. I did exactly the same, pulled out the dividers, but this time I wanted to do an extra swirl throughout the soap just to see what that would look like.
You grew old in suburbia, where pretty demons never show, shifting shapes in millennia, but you're okay. I don't have the pieces of your home.
So then I made sure I forced gel on my soap just to help those natural colours come out a little bit more. So as normal, I wrapped the soap and I put it in the warmed oven at 75 degrees C, about 170 degrees F. Turn the oven off as soon as the soap goes in there and then just left it overnight. And then for both of these loaves, I'm going to cut them horizontally. So first of all, cutting the whole loaf into big blocks. And then turning it so that you're cutting horizontally down from the top to the bottom of the loaf. Now I'm only cutting mine in half across the centre. You could easily get 3 bars normally going down a loaf, but I wanted sort of a shorter, chunkier bar for this design. And there's our design going through the middle, and phew, I think I survived with my very dark essential oil there. Those 3 colours have come through really nicely. And then for our second bar, and I must admit I was a bit unsure about how this one would come out and whether that extra swirl through might have just ruined the careful pouring that I did. So I'm going to just cut this one in exactly the same way as the first one. And then let's have a look at those bars as we cut across the middle. Oh, hey, cool, I really like that. It's got sort of lots of little hearts all the way through the bar. And then as we look at these other bars, we can see those hearts almost looking like they're sort of hanging on some vines or something, or maybe even some seaweed that we've got floating in the sea. And then here are some final pictures of the soap. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you like the soap. If you have, it would be great if you left me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see what I'm doing in the future, why not subscribe to my channel? If you've got any questions or queries, then please leave them in the comments section below and I will get back to you. Thanks for watching everyone. Happy soaping!